All right. Hey, thanks for reading this paper. I recognize that a lot of people don't have time to read what turned out to be a 20-page plus paper, and so I wanted to give a 2-minute video just to explain the concepts. There's a big debate if there is demand for non-USD stablecoins, and I think that it is improperly framed. And so what we wanted to do is give a as quick as possible, a little insight into how we think about it. How we feel is that there is demand, if you look at all of human history, for non USD participation in finance. And if stablecoins are going to truly see global adoption, we will need to provide a mechanism for those countries to participate. We think the lack of demand is less an indication that there is no desire for non USD stablecoins, but there aren't stablecoins as they exist today are not enough to ensure global participation. And we make the case for yield-bearing primitives. So quickly to go through, true to all markets is supply and demand. And that supply and demand dictates the spread, which is the cost to make those trades. Unfortunately for FX, and in this case, we'll use Mexico and the US to explain these ideas, there exists a spread for many reasons. Risk, demand, and competition all create this spread. We believe that FX will move on chain because the blockchain enables a better opportunity, given stronger primitives, to create a more optimal marketplace with tighter spreads, which are costs. Fundamentally, over time, we think that this will be free. It will be free to globally send money across the world. However, we have to create the right asset, which we believe our stable bonds are primary product. Two things that stable bonds do that don't exist today is they create a store of value and investment mechanism in a product that helps facilitate the marketplace to engage in FX on chain. A lot of what people do today that they call FX isn't traditionally FX. It is simply passing the value from one country to the next and telling those people to engage in traditional FX yourselves. So stable bonds, we eliminate the delta in risk from the spread by creating a comparable asset to facilitate a US marketplace and a Mexican marketplace. For example, in a traditional marketplace, you'd need to facilitate USD and MXN. There's all sorts of fees involved because of pre-funding, because of risk from holding these assets. But if you add our Etherfuse CETES product, which is tokenized sovereign debt, the yields offered that accrue in that asset as you hold them are comparable to the store of value of the US dollar. Additionally, there needs to be a reason for people to engage and to invest on chain. If we look at remittance flows from the US to Mexico, they are 94 billion. Today's answer is that there should be enough people who will tokenize the peso as a stablecoin and LP those marketplaces. That marketplace would have to have assets and stablecoins sitting in 3 to 5 billion just to facilitate that marketplace. Nobody wants to LP risky fiat. But Mexico has shown us, just last year alone, they've issued 104 billion in sovereign debt. So tokenizing this investment that exceeds the liquidity as a traditional investment needed to facilitate FX on chain shows us that there is an appetite for this investment and an appetite to further squeeze out yield that I could get if I tokenize and activate that asset and participate in on-chain FX markets. So that is why the store value and investment mechanism is important, and stable bonds, Etherfuse's flagship product, provides that. It is the correct primitive to attract non-USD stablecoins on chain. So let's step back. Stablecoins are not sufficient to bring the world on chain. Initially, they create more complexity in the settlement between two currencies. Traditionally, you would have USD fiat and MXN pesos. Adding two stablecoins in the mix creates added complexity. Now you have a spread between the true price and the on-chain price, which is supply driven. You can overcome that through liquidity. For example, USDC is a healthy peg. That alone creates enough increased competition to reduce the cost of FX today. By sending USDC across borders, I can engage in cheaper FX that I couldn't engage in my local community, and I've opened up a lot of opportunities to participate into that. And that is primarily the value we've seen today through stablecoins. However, on the counterparty side, that spread still exists. And the risk and demand from holding Mexican pesos to facilitate that market still exists. And that is why we haven't seen a non-USD currency show, I would say, proportional demand that we see in the real world. It is misguided to say that no one wants non-USD assets. We simply think that the correct asset hasn't been created. Because even when I create a stable coin or a local currency stable coin, I still have the inequity in demand, meaning from the US to Mexico, there is more demand, meaning someone needs to hold more pesos because there's more people selling the dollar, buying the pesos than there are people selling pesos and buying the dollar. So someone has to facilitate that demand. And the risk of holding Mexican pesos is greater than the risk of holding the dollar. So we believe money on chain requires three things: a store of value, an investment mechanism, and a utility. And those all contribute to the spreads that exist in on-chain FX today. We've seen a lot of promising opportunities from local stablecoins. I will use ours as an example, our Mexican peso stablecoin, MXNE. It provides the utility to shrink the gap between the on-chain price and the fiat price by creating real-time ramps. And a lot of non-USD stablecoins have seen a lot of interesting use cases and benefited by creating immediate free on-ramps in the local currency. And this facilitates payments locally and a lot of opportunities. However, we haven't seen the proportional adoption on chain as we see in the real world. And our argument is because the risk and demand to facilitate that market in FX on chain still exist. Stable bonds possesses all of the characteristics necessary to move FX on chain. So not only can we eliminate or reduce the spread to trade from Mexico to the US on chain, we can power markets that don't currently exist today. Today, about 86% of all currency trades involve the dollar. Well, given that now a non-US asset encapsulated as a stable bond is a comparable asset and store of value with an investment mechanism and utility as USDC or any other US denominated stablecoin, we can have direct paths. For example, Brazil to Mexico can be direct and not involve the United States, where today sending money from, say, Indonesia and Thailand involves 6 banks, multiple countries, and it's quite a mess. So we believe that stablecoins are not sufficient to power the future of global adoption, but stable bonds are. We've thought a lot about these characteristics of money, which are the need for a proper store of value, an investment mechanism to power those marketplaces, and utility for the local economies. Then through this mechanism, we will bring on FX on chain. Thanks for reading. And this is not hypothetical, nor something that we're doing in the future. These assets and products exist today. Our FX API uses these assets to engage in FX on chain today. And our assets, our stable bonds, are available in multi-currencies today. Read the full paper or go to our website to learn more.